evening to everyone. My name is Alan Wittig. I'm a program officer at the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Convention. I will be providing you a briefing today on the preparations for the upcoming online segment of the COPs. The briefing will be followed by a session of Q&A where you will be able to see clarification or make comments. The whole session is expected to last about 1 hour. The session will also be recorded and posted on the meeting website in case you have missed parts of the briefing. It will be possible to view it after the session has closed. During the briefing, I kindly ask you to please keep your microphones muted and your cameras off, and this is to ensure the best quality of sound during the briefing itself. So, given that it is now 2 minutes past 10 Geneva time in the morning, and there are quite a few participants here for this session, we will now begin. So first, looking at the format of the 2021-2022 conferences of the parties of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. As you are aware, due to the ongoing pandemic situation, the COPs could not be held as originally planned as face-to-face meetings from 19 to 30 July 2021 in Geneva. On 26 February 2021, after extensive consultations with regions, the 3 COP bureaus agreed to organize the meetings according to 2 segments. An online segment over 5 days from 26 to 30 July 2021, and a face-to-face segment over 2 weeks in 2022, tentatively in June 2022 in Geneva. The theme of the meetings is shown on the screen. It's Global Agreements for a Healthy Planet, Sound Management of Chemicals and Waste. And this is a theme that actually applies to the full meetings. So actually the 2 segments, the online and the face-to-face segments. The provisional agendas of the COPs are available on the meeting website. They have the document symbols that are now shown on the screen. It should be noted that given the online segment and the face-to-face segments are actually 2 parts of the same meeting, the agendas for the COPs cover the full items, the totality of the meeting. So you will see all items for the whole meeting, so they're both segments. In accordance with the Bureau Agreement on 26 February, the online segment is expected to focus only on limited number of agenda items for which essential or time-sensitive decisions need to be taken in 2021 and cannot be deferred to 2022. In the next slide, we'll have a closer look at these so-called prioritized items. During the face-to-face segment of the COPs will then consider all items of their agendas that were either not considered or concluded during the online segment and therefore deferred to the face-to-face segment. Okay, so let's take a closer look at these prioritized items, the items that will be considered by the online segment towards the end of this month. So the first item on the slide pertains to the convention's programs of work and budgets. As you are aware, the current budget of the conventions end on 31st December 2021, and therefore a budget for 2022 needs to be adopted in 2021 to ensure the continuation of the operations of the conventions and of the secretariats in 2022. On the basis of this rationale, the bureaus agreed that during this online segment, the COPs would consider interim budgets for 2022 to allow for the continued operations of the conventions beyond the end of this year, beyond 31st December this year. And in order to facilitate the online negotiations, the bureaus proposed that the COPs consider a single scenario for such an interim budget in 2022, pending the adoption of a full budget for the biennium 2022-2023 by the COPs to be considered during the face-to-face segment in 2022. The second prioritized item, which is listed here, pertains to certain elections which are specific to the Rotterdam and the Stockholm Convention COPs. The two COPs will respectively be invited to elect members of the Rotterdam Convention Compliance Committee and members of the Stockholm Convention Effectiveness Evaluation Committee. The two COPs will also respectively be invited to extend the terms of office of the Chemical Review Committee members and of the POPs Review Committee members, whose terms of office would otherwise expire on 30 April 2022 and 4 May 2022, and the extension would be until the closing of the COPs, so closing of the face-to-face segments. The third prioritized item, which is shown here in the third main bullet here, relates to the venue and date of the face-to-face segment of the COPs and of the next COPs. And under that item, the COPs will consider and agree on the venue and dates of the face-to-face segments of the COPs in 2022. And finally, the fourth prioritized item is a convention-specific item, and it pertains to the Stockholm Financial Mechanism. And the Stockholm Convention COP will consider adopting a process-oriented decision to forward to the Global Environment Facility the reports on the needs assessment and on the review of the financial mechanism, and invite the GEF to consider on an interim basis this information for the replenishment discussions, pending a final decision of the COP on this matter during the face-to-face segment in 2022. Now let's have a closer look at the organization of work of the online segment taking place from 26 July to 30 July, so in a couple of weeks. And this is an organization of work that was agreed to by the three bureaus, COP bureaus. So indeed, the online segment will be held over these 5 days, from Monday to Friday. And the sessions will take place from 1 p.m. to 5:03 p.m. Geneva local time, which is UTC +2 each day. On the Monday 26 July and on the Friday 30 July, these days will consist of plenary sessions with interpretation in the 6 official languages of the United Nations. The middle days of this week, so the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, will consist of the anticipated joint contact group sessions on the programs of work and budgets, and these will be held in English only. It should be noted that in particular for the 2 plenary days, so Monday and Thursday, after 2 hours of meetings, there will be a 30-minute break to allow for the change over of the team of interpreters. If we take now a closer look at the schedule for the Monday plenary session, so the meetings will open at 1 p.m. by the 3 presidents in a sequential manner. During the opening of the meetings, there will be a number of speakers providing opening remarks, such as the Deputy Executive Director of UNEP, the Director General of FAO, the executive secretaries, and the COP presidents. And after this, there will be an opportunity for representatives of regional groups to deliver short statements, and overall, all statements need to be kept very short and no longer than 3 minutes, given the limited time available during the plenary session. After the opening statements, each COP will then adopt in a sequential manner the agenda for its meetings. After this, the COP will begin a joint session, and the COPs will first consider the organization of work of the basis on the basis of this schedule shown on the screen and of the scenario note. Then the Rotterdam and Stockholm Convention COPs will consider the elections, and under this item, the Secretariat will introduce the item on elections, and will provide information on the elections expected to take place during this online segment. It should be noted that the election package with the nominated candidates selected by each region is to be submitted to the Secretariat no later than 1 p.m. on Thursday, 29 July, and this is indicated here on the screen also. The elections themselves are expected to take place during the plenary session on the Friday, 30 July. Then the COPs will consider the item on credentials, and the Secretariat will here again introduce the approach agreed by the bureaus at their joint meeting, according to which the bureaus of each COP will examine the credentials of representatives attending its meeting and will report to the COPs on Friday, 30 July, on the outcomes of that examination. It is important that to note that credentials are to be submitted no later than 6 p.m. on Tuesday, 27 July 2021. And this is also shown on the schedule here. Then the COPs will turn to the remaining prioritized items, starting with the item on the interim programs of work and budgets for the three conventions. And following an introduction of the interim budgets for 2022 by the Secretariat and an opportunity for general discussion, the COP may wish to establish a joint contact group to consider the interim budgets in more detail and to prepare 3 separate but harmonized draft decisions on the interim program of work and budget for 2022. And these will then be considered for adoption on the Friday, 30 July. The COP will then consider the venue and date of the resumed meeting of the COPs. And finally, there will be a Stockholm-specific session at the end of that afternoon, which is for the Stockholm COP to consider the item on financial resources and mechanism. As I mentioned earlier, then the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the schedule is the same as for the plenary. So the sessions would start at 1 p.m. and end at 5:30 p.m. each day, Geneva time. And during those sessions, the COP will then hold these joint contact group sessions on the interim budgets, on the interim programs of work and budgets for 2022, and these will be held in English only. And in line with past practice, the contact group will be open to representatives of parties only. Now turning to Friday. During the sessions on Friday, the COPs will hold joint and specific sessions as necessary, joint or convention-specific sessions as necessary, during which the COPs will hear a report from the joint contact group on the interim programs of work and budget for 2022. They will adopt their respective report on credentials and adopt a decision on the interim programs of work and budgets. and any outstanding decisions. And it is to be noted here that it's possible that certain decisions may already be adopted on the Monday if it's doable. Then the COPs will jointly consider the sections of the report of the Monday meeting as per usual practice, and then the meeting of the COP will then be adjourned by the presidents and will be reconvened as a face-to-face meetings at the date and venue to be decided by the COPs during the present this online segment. So here on the slide, you see the key documents, the documents to be considered specifically for the online segment. So the first three bullets basically list the usual organizational type documents. So the provisional agendas, the annotated agendas, the scenario notes, and the tentative schedule of work, which was what we were looking at just at the previous slide. And then here you see the other pre-session documents on the prioritized COP agenda items, starting with the documents related to the item on the interim budgets for 2022. And for this item, there is one specific working document, which is listed here. And there's two associated INF documents, the first with the budget tables, which was recently revised, updated, so you may wish to have a close look at that document. And an information document on the modalities for the continuation of the intersessional work under the conventions in 2022, which was prepared at the request of the joint bureaus. And this document contains suggested deadlines for the provision of comments on products prepared by the various subsidiary bodies and working groups. Then on the election of officers, there is one joint document which is specific to Rotterdam and Stockholm COP, which is listed here. And then there's also an associated INF document, which provides an overview table of all the elections, highlighting which ones are to be considered specifically for the online segment. For the Stockholm financial mechanism, there's one working document which is shown on the screen. And then for the venue and date, there's also one joint working document shown on the screen. One point to mention here is since the meetings formally open on the 26th July, so basically for both segments, and according to the rules of procedures, all working documents have been made available at least 2 months before the start of the COPs. So if you look now at the convention website, you will see all the working documents available. And we have indicated in a column which are the ones that are required, need to be consulted for the online segment specifically, to help you figure out which are the ones. Basically, it's the same as what is listed here. For the information documents, the items that are to be considered by the face-to-face segments, the publication, dissemination of these may be delayed to later this year and made available in advance of the face-to-face segment. So looking at now the registration process, so as you see on the screen, the registration deadlines have now passed. But if you still intend to register, there is still a possibility, but we invite you to do so as soon as possible, and to contact the Secretariat accordingly. So the process for registration follows the same process as for the face-to-face segments. So parties are to nominate to send the nominations by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or Permanent Missions in Geneva through the official nomination letter. Bodies and agencies not previously admitted as observers to meetings need to complete the admission procedure before registration, and this is available on the COP's website, on the convention's website. So as pointed out earlier, the plenary sessions are held in the 6 UN languages and will be held on the platform called Interprefy. And in order to make sure that the system works well, the platform works well, there is one limitation, is that each delegation is to nominate one spokesperson per delegation who will be given speaking rights. Other members of the delegation will be provided a so-called viewers link and will be able to follow the discussions also in any of the 6 languages, but will not be able to take the floor. And the Secretariat will consider the head of delegation as the spokesperson unless mentioned otherwise. In accordance with UNEP and BRS Secretariat policies, an exceptional support for the reimbursement of communication costs to assist up to 3 participants, 3 representatives from developing countries, parties, and parties with economies in transition will be provided to participate in the online segment of the meeting under the modalities to be specified that were specified in the invitation letters. And here I would wish to acknowledge and thank the donors, so the financial support for the participation of eligible party representatives in the 2021-2022 meetings of the COPs is provided thanks to the generous financial support provided by the governments of Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden, and Switzerland, and the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, NORAD. The confirmation letters will be sent out very shortly, either already tomorrow or the latest Monday. So you will receive all the needed information on how to connect and participate to the meetings through these confirmation letters, which will be then shortly followed by an email, which will then again explain you exactly the steps of how to connect to the meetings. And I'll come back a little bit on that in later slides, but basically how to connect to the password protected intranet site and then through there to the various meetings. The contact person for registrations is shown on the screen. It's Ms. Stéphanie Cadet. So you may contact her if you have any questions or any clarification on registration. So with regard to credentials, the Bureau agreed on the approach for the preparation of their respective report on credential based on past practice. So original and copies of credentials in good order, including electronic copies, are accepted with the understanding that the original will be submitted as soon as possible. And in terms of submission of credentials, so credentials are to be issued by the head of state or government or Minister of Foreign Affairs. And the submission to the Secretariat can be made or in paper and electronic copy in advance of the meeting, and it was preferably to be done by 30 June. If credentials have not been submitted by that date, then the Secretary would actually welcome receiving electronic copies of the credentials by email no later than 6 p.m. on Tuesday, 27 July 2021. This is in Geneva time, UTC +2. And due to the exceptional circumstances of basically the Secretariat is mostly working from home, so this would greatly facilitate the process. So if you could send these credentials by email instead of by hard copy. The credentials can be, one important point to note is the credentials can be submitted either for the online segment specifically or for both the online and the face-to-face segments of the COPs. And if they are submitted in the latter case, if they're submitted for both segments, updates are will be possible before the face-to-face segment. Here again, the contact person in the Secretariat is Stéphanie Cadet, and her email address is shown on the screen. Now we can take a closer look at the key organizational aspects of the meeting. So as I had already mentioned, the two plenary sessions, well, the 2 days of plenary sessions will be held on the platform Interprefy in the 6 UN languages. The sessions are open to all delegations, and as indicated, with one spokesman per delegation. There'll be a possibility to send interventions through the chat or contact the secretariat by phone if you experience any technical or connectivity issues. So there will always be a way to bring your intervention to the attention of the president and the secretariat through written format if needed. But just to note that only oral interventions will actually be captured in the meeting report. The contact group sessions will be held on WebEx in English only. The sessions are open to parties only, and there will be no restrictions on these sessions on the number of representatives per delegations to take the floor, since it's on the WebEx and in English only. And here again, much like for the plenary sessions, there'll be a possibility to send an intervention through the chat or contact the secretary by phone if you have technical issues. So in this communication that the secretary will be sending to you in the next couple of days, you will receive all the information on how to access the password protected intranet site, which will look very much like the usual intranet sites of BRS meetings. The intranet site will provide all the information needed for the meeting, and in particular links to the technical trials. And I'll mention when these will take place in the next slide. You'll also have links to access the plenary sessions, and for parties, links to access the contact group sessions. And in fact, there'll be links for other meetings like regional meetings as needed. So basically, the access to all these different platforms is centralized through the intranet, through these buttons, and it'll be very clearly mentioned on the intranet page. The intranet will also contain the usual meeting documents, space for posting CRPs, and the outcomes of the contact group. As I mentioned previously, interventions of regional opening statements need to be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. And during the deliberations in the plenary, other interventions need to be limited to no more than 2 minutes. And it should be noted that longer interventions or statements can be made available on the intranet if you wish. And to do that, you need to submit these to the email address there, which is the CRP Secretariat email address. And in fact, given the online format, these are even encouraged. And then it's also encouraged that you submit to this address here, which is colleague in Yunnan in Nairobi for your interventions, so that they can forward those to the interpreters or report writers as relevant, and this does help their work. You may submit, as usual, as per normal meetings, you can submit your CRPs. So parties only can submit CRPs to the CRP address mentioned on the screen. So during those 5 days of the online segment, there will also be a number of other meetings. The joint bureau meeting will be held as necessary each morning, well, Geneva time each morning prior to the start of the meetings. Regional group meetings may meet also during the online segment upon request, and we have received some, but not from all regions. So you may still send in your requests if not already done via your bureau representative for your region. There'll also be a number of online side events, that will be held in the afternoons and evenings of the Monday through Thursday. and the program for the side events will be made available on the website shortly. And once the intranet site is also activated, they'll also be available on the intranet. The intranet will generally provide also a schedule of all planned meetings during the online segment. So given the very special circumstances and having this online segment, having this segment online, this first segment online, a number of preparatory meetings took place in the run-up to this segment. There were 4 regional preparatory meetings that were held for the Africa, Asia Pacific, Eastern Europe, and Latin America and the Caribbean regions. There was also a technical briefing on the budget documents, which was for parties, which was held on the 24th of June at the request of the COP presidents. And here this week we've been holding a series of global webinars. So this is the last webinar taking place this week prior to the meeting. One very important point we wish to highlight here is the technical trials. So these technical trials are on Interprefy and on the WebEx platform. They will take place on Wednesday 21 July and Thursday 22 July in two blocks of sessions. So from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Geneva time. These are expressed in Geneva time UTC +2. And 3 to 5 p.m. And you can join within those timeframes at any time that suits you. And the technical trials will be on both platforms, will be held in parallel. So you can actually test on one platform and then immediately after test on the other platform. And it's really strongly advised that you do these testings with the actual setup that you will have during the meetings themselves. You will find more information, all this information contained on the meeting website at the address shown on the screen. This is my final slide. So it's looking ahead towards the face-to-face resumed segment or resumed meetings. So the Secretary was able to secure a venue, the CICG, from 6 to 17 June 2022. And these dates and venue are to be agreed to by the COPs at the online segment, as we just have seen. The arrangements for the high-level segment will be further considered by the bureaus after the online segment has taken place. And here again, we can see on the screen the theme of the meetings. Thank you very much. This concludes my presentation. And now we have some minutes for you to ask any clarifying questions or make comments. I think we've already received some, so I will